the Amazon, a place of endless green, where the air is thick with mystery and the trees hide secrets older than empires. To outsiders, it was once called a green hell, a land of venomous creatures, shifting rivers, and tribes who guarded their world with fierce silence. Yet, to those who dared to listen, the jungle whispered another story, of a lost kingdom glittering with treasures beyond imagination. Explorers spoke of towering stone cities swallowed by vines, of roads stretching for miles beneath the canopy, and of people whose knowledge rivaled the greatest civilizations of the ancient world. Somewhere in that vast labyrinth of rivers and shadows, it was said, lay the lost city of Z, a place of untold riches and forbidden power. But the jungle is a jealous keeper of its secrets. Those who entered seeking gold often found only death. Some vanished without a trace. Others returned with stories too wild to believe. Ruins that shimmered like temples of the gods, tribes who spoke of a forgotten city, and glimpses of riches that should have been impossible. Was it all illusion? Or is the Amazon still guarding a kingdom that could rewrite history itself? The story of the lost city of Z begins centuries before Percy Fawcett ever set foot in the Amazon. When the Spanish conquistadors stormed into South America in the 1500s, they came chasing glory, gold, and the fabled lands of untold wealth. From the Andes to the jungles, whispers spread of El Dorado, a city where streets were said to glitter with gold dust and rulers bathed in treasures before casting them into sacred lakes. Most conquistadors found nothing but endless hardship. Yet some returned with strange and unsettling tales. They spoke of stone roads vanishing into the jungle, of vast settlements where thousands once lived, and of tribes who hinted at an ancient, powerful people hidden deep in the forest. One conquistador described seeing what he believed were walls of white stone glinting in the sunlight before the jungle swallowed them from sight. Another spoke of ornate pottery and artifacts far more advanced than what he had seen in small jungle villages. Europe, already fevered with dreams of wealth from the New World, seized on these accounts. Were they exaggerations, hallucinations brought on by heat and disease, or did they point to something far greater, an empire concealed beneath the green abyss? As the years passed, these rumors hardened into legend. Explorers, missionaries, and adventurers carried the tale from one generation to the next. Some believed it was a mere mirage of European greed. Others insisted the Amazon had once hosted civilizations as grand as the Incas or Mayans. And so, the seeds of the lost city of Z were sown, not just a tale of gold and riches, but of a forbidden world that defied the imagination. A mystery waiting for someone daring enough to claim it. Enter Colonel Percy Harrison Fawcett, a man born not just into the British Empire, but into the age of discovery itself. By the early 20th century, much of the world had been mapped, yet the Amazon remained a yawning void on the charts, an ocean of green where myths could still breathe. To most, it was a place of danger. To Fawcett, it was destiny. Tall, rugged, and fiercely disciplined, Fawcett had served as a soldier, spy, and cartographer. But beyond his polished military exterior, he was a dreamer, drawn not to cities of steel and stone, but to whispers of lost worlds hidden by nature's hand. His obsession with the Amazon began when he was tasked with charting the Brazil-Bolivia border for the Royal Geographical Society. As he hacked his way through the dense jungle, he began to encounter clues that the wilderness was far from empty. He found shards of intricately designed pottery, fragments of carved idols, and heard native accounts of vast stone cities buried under centuries of growth. These were not the meager remnants of small tribes, but the fingerprints of a civilization that had once thrived in the heart of the forest. To Fawcett, it was proof that the myth of the lost city of Z was rooted in truth. From that moment, Z consumed him. He pored over manuscripts such as a 1753 document he called Manuscript 5 at 12, describing a ruined city with towering arches, mysterious symbols, and treasure beyond imagining. He began to speak of Z not as a legend, but as a certainty waiting to be unveiled. To colleagues, he was brilliant but reckless. To his family, he was a man possessed. Fawcett's journals reveal a mind teetering between logic and obsession. He wrote of Z as if it were calling to him personally, as though the jungle itself had chosen him to uncover its greatest secret. The Amazon, he believed, was guarding a civilization that could rewrite human history, a kingdom of wealth and wisdom that had eluded centuries of intruders. But obsession is a dangerous master. Fawcett's dreams of Z grew so intense that they began to eclipse everything else: his reputation, his safety, even his family's well-being. He wasn't just searching for ruins. He was searching for immortality. And soon he would risk everything: his name, his son, and his very life, in pursuit of the city that consumed his soul. For Percy Fawcett, the lure of the lost city of Z was never about mere gold. He spoke of wisdom, of rediscovering an ancient world that could elevate humanity itself. But for many others, the legend of Z was a siren's song promising wealth beyond comprehension. Rumors painted visions of temples adorned with gemstones, streets paved with precious metals, and vaults overflowing with artifacts untouched since the age of forgotten kings. Some whispered that Z might hold the last remnants of El Dorado's treasure, hidden away from the plundering hands of conquistadors. To treasure hunters and fortune-seekers, it was not history they sought, but untold riches, a golden kingdom in the heart of the green abyss. Word of Fawcett's theories spread quickly among adventurers, journalists, and financiers. Some dismissed him as a dreamer, others were electrified by the possibility. Men of wealth and ambition quietly began to imagine what it might mean to control such a discovery. Expeditions were whispered about in London clubs and mapped on parchment in candlelit studies. The idea of Z was no longer just a scholarly pursuit. It was a gold fever rising from the depths of the Amazon. But the jungle exacts a heavy price for greed. Those who entered seeking treasure often found only hunger, fever, and death. Skeletons were left beside abandoned camps, journals cut off mid-sentence, and campsites swallowed whole by creeping vines. Z, it seemed, mocked those who came with greed in their hearts. Yet Fawcett's vision only grew brighter. He believed Z was more than gold. It was a revelation, the missing chapter in humanity's story. Where others saw riches to plunder, he saw a destiny to fulfill. To him, the riches of Z were not measured in coins, but in the glory of proving the impossible. Still, even Fawcett could not ignore the whisper of wealth. He knew that tales of treasure would fuel his expeditions, attract backers, and rally men willing to follow him into the green unknown. And so, whether as wisdom or as wealth, the call of Z grew louder, pulling countless souls deeper into the jungle, never to return. And in 1925, Fawcett himself would answer that call for the final time. In 1925, Percy Fawcett made the boldest and most fateful decision of his life. After years of studying artifacts, manuscripts, and indigenous testimonies, he declared he was ready to find the lost city of Z once and for all. This would not be another trial or scouting mission. This was the expedition, the one that would etch his name into history, or erase him from it. But unlike earlier journeys, this time Fawcett's companions were not hardened mercenaries or seasoned explorers. They were far closer to his heart. His eldest son, Jack Fawcett, and Jack's best friend, Raleigh Rimmel, joined the mission. To Percy, their inclusion was not reckless, it was symbolic. He saw them as the heirs of discovery, proof that the torch of exploration could pass from father to son. To skeptics, however, it was madness, dragging two young men into one of the most hostile places on Earth. Their supplies were sparse by design. Fawcett believed survival depended on traveling light, relying on the jungle's resources rather than heavy equipment. Each man carried only what he could on his back: a machete, a rifle, basic rations, and journals for recording their findings. No pack animals, no large crew, no rescue plan. To Fawcett, this was not arrogance. It was necessity. "The jungle provides for those who respect it," he wrote. On the eve of departure, Percy wrote letters filled with confidence. He spoke of great discoveries ahead and promised that the world would soon know the truth of Z. His words carried a sense of destiny, as though he already stood at the threshold of something monumental. Friends and colleagues, however, noted an unease beneath his certainty. One remarked that Fawcett seemed less like a man setting off on an expedition and more like a pilgrim walking willingly into a final trial. The expedition began with optimism. They traveled by riverboats and on foot, welcomed at times by friendly tribes, resisted at others by hostile ones. Letters Fawcett sent back described the journey as arduous but promising. They were deep into Mato Grosso, Brazil, following a trail that few outsiders had ever seen. And then the letters stopped. The last message, sent to Fawcett's wife, Nina, was chilling in its calmness. He wrote that they were about to penetrate uncharted territory, a place he was certain held the secret of Z. He warned that if they did not return, no one should attempt a rescue. The jungle, he implied, would not forgive such intrusion twice. After that, silence. No bodies were found. No camp was recovered. The three men, Percy, Jack, and Raleigh, vanished into the green abyss, swallowed whole by the Amazon. Was Z finally within their grasp when fate struck them down? Or had the jungle itself exacted its price for their intrusion? The world waited. And when Fawcett did not return, a legend was born. When Percy Fawcett's letters ceased, the world first waited with patience, then with anxiety, and finally with fear. Weeks passed, then months. Whispers grew louder. Had he found Z? Had he been killed? Or was he still alive, wandering in a world untouched by civilization? The uncertainty ignited a frenzy. Newspapers splashed his story across their front pages, painting Fawcett as either a tragic hero or a fool blinded by obsession. Families in Europe and America read with horror, yet thousands of dreamers felt the pull of the same myth. If Fawcett had found Z, or even perished at its gates, then the city must be real. And so began a wave of rescue missions. One by one they set out. Adventurers, journalists, soldiers of fortune, and treasure hunters plunged into the rainforest determined to solve the mystery. Few returned. Those who did carried stories that chilled the world. Some spoke of starvation, of eating snakes and insects just to survive. Others described nights filled with the shrieks of jaguars, the drumbeats of unseen tribes, and the hum of insects that never ceased. Men were struck down by malaria, their bodies left to rot in the humid air. Expeditions staggered back with skeletal survivors, or no survivors at all. The Amazon swallowed them without mercy, as though the jungle itself was warning, "Do not follow." Still, the rumors persisted. Indigenous tribes spoke of 3 white men seen traveling upriver, alive and determined, long after the world believed them dead. Some said Fawcett had been captured by a hostile tribe and executed. Others claimed he had chosen to stay, crowned as a god in a hidden village, never wishing to return. In smoky taverns and lecture halls, speculation ran wild. Had he perished, or had he become part of the very legend he sought? What was certain was this: the jungle devoured more than just Fawcett. It consumed hope, reason, and the lives of those who dared to chase him. More than 100 men are believed to have died searching for the truth of his fate, and with each vanished expedition, the myth of Z only grew stronger, transforming from a legend of riches into a riddle of survival and obsession. The Amazon had drawn a line in the sand. Those who sought its secrets would pay with their lives. Yet still whispers of lost civilizations and hidden wealth echoed through the dense canopy. Fawcett's disappearance had not killed the dream of Z. It had immortalized it. For decades after Percy Fawcett's disappearance, the lost city of Z was dismissed as a fantasy. a fever dream born of jungle heat, hunger, and obsession. Scholars scoffed at the very idea of advanced civilizations thriving in the Amazon. The region, they argued, was too hostile, its soil too poor, its climate too unforgiving to sustain anything beyond scattered tribes. To them, Fawcett's Z was nothing more than a mirage, but legends are not so easily buried. Indigenous stories continued to speak of ancient cities hidden beneath the canopy, of stone roads leading nowhere, of walls and plazas swallowed whole by vines. Locals hinted at the ancients, builders of monuments now lost to time. The jungle kept its silence, but it never stopped whispering. Then, slowly, the evidence began to emerge. Archaeologists unearthed vast geoglyphs, geometric earthworks etched into the land, so large they could only be fully seen from the air. Scientists discovered traces of ancient soil enrichment, terra preta, or black earth, a man-made soil so fertile it still grows crops centuries later. And in scattered sites, ruins of Kuhikugu, a vast settlement network, revealed that tens of thousands of people may once have thrived where skeptics had sworn it was impossible. Suddenly, the impossible did not seem so far-fetched. Fawcett's madness began to look less like fantasy and more like foresight. Could Z have been real, not as a golden kingdom, but as a sprawling civilization hidden beneath centuries of jungle growth? Modern technology added fuel to the fire. Satellite images and LiDAR scans pierced through the thick canopy, revealing patterns, straight lines, squares, circles that nature does not make on its own. They suggested that beneath the green ocean of trees lies the faint skeleton of forgotten cities. Roads, plazas, even causeways, waiting to be rediscovered. Still, the truth remains elusive. Was Fawcett chasing a myth spun from conquistadors' greed? Or was he on the brink of proving that the Amazon once rivaled the grandeur of the Maya or the Inca? The line between fact and fantasy grows thinner with every new discovery. Perhaps Z was never a single shining city of gold. Perhaps it was something even more extraordinary, an entire civilization swallowed by time, waiting for the jungle to give it back. And if that is true, then the riches of Z may not be measured in gold at all, but in the knowledge of a world that could rewrite human history. In the end, the lost city of Z is more than a story of gold. It is a story of obsession, sacrifice, and the eternal hunger of humankind to touch the unknown. Percy Fawcett did not return from the jungle, but in his disappearance he became part of the very legend he chased. His name and his fate are now forever entwined with Z, as inseparable as the vines that grip the ruins hidden beneath the canopy. For some, the riches of Z are measured in glittering treasure, golden temples, jeweled idols, and vaults untouched for centuries. To others, its wealth lies in knowledge, the rediscovery of civilizations thought impossible, the revelation that the Amazon was not an empty wilderness but a cradle of ingenuity and life. If Fawcett was right, then the Amazon hides not just treasure, but a lost chapter of human history. Even now, the jungle resists. It swallows roads, buries cities, and guards its secrets with silence. Yet, with every LiDAR scan, every excavation, every artifact pulled from the soil, we edge closer to an answer. Was Z real? Was it many cities? Or is it still out there, untouched, waiting for the day it will rise from the shadows? Perhaps the greatest riches of all are not gold or jewels, but the irresistible pull of mystery itself. For as long as the Amazon breathes, the legend of Z will live on, calling to the brave, the foolish, and the dreamers, daring them to uncover what lies beneath the green abyss. The jungle still whispers, and the lost city of Z remains a riddle etched into the heart of the Amazon. Was it treasure, knowledge, or something far greater that claimed Percy Fawcett and countless others? Perhaps the true riches lie not in what was found, but in what still waits to be uncovered. What do you believe? Was Z a golden kingdom, a forgotten civilization, or just the ghost of a dream? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you crave more tales of mystery, obsession, and hidden history, subscribe and join us for the next journey into the unknown.